Hey there, everyone. I am going to be walking you through the May projects here. The mosaic board that you have in this month's box. So, what you're going to do is get your small pointy brush. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks. I've got this plate that I just finished the color mixing tutorial on. Okay. And the main things, I mean, you can choose whatever colors you guys want. So if you want, coral or any of these specialty colors that you see on this plate, you'll want to go back and watch that video first and kind of get you some colors mixed up so that you have this prepped for your project for actual painting. So what I recommend doing first, anything that's like behind other things are things that you're going to want to do first. So what comes to mind is the vase. The leaves are tucked behind the flowers, so that would be something I'd want to do first. So this flower is in the very front, it's going to come last. And so then we would do these flowers here because you want to paint up to these lines and then be able to paint this flower over everything else, okay? So that's tip number one, is always kind of identify what's in the furthest background and kind of work up toward yourself from there. So we're gonna do some green. I'm gonna do like muted tones in this one because I've got a sample that's already in very bright colors. And so I wanna show you guys what's possible as far as kind of using a little bit more like grown-up-y colors. So this is gonna be more, this is the green that I made with the black and the yellow. So it's more of a sagey olive. And then I'm adding just a little bit of white here and there. And you can see I like to just mix on my canvas. In this instance, this is a piece of wood, but it's still technically, I guess it's a substrate is what it's called, like the item that you're painting on. So you can have a wooden substrate, a canvas substrate. Ooh, I'm really having issues with the camera today. Can't quit knocking the table and the camera. So I'm just getting a little bit of paint on my brush at a time, using that pointy brush. The great thing about these engraved lines is that if you paint over them, they still show up. So I'm not trying to be too careful, especially at this stage when I'm in the very background, to stay inside the lines. You can see I got into the flower a little bit. This is the reason why we paint from back to front, so that we can paint over these whoopsies. So I'm not being very careful, but I am using the point of the brush, see this little pointy area, to point and pull outward. And here I just added a little black, more black to my yellow to make a darker one, a little bit lighter here. So you can kind of play with your tones, making them light and dark. Reloading your brush often so that you aren't killing yourself by stroking so much to get coverage, and it just looks richer when you use more paint. So making some light and some dark. Pretty much none of them are going to be the same exact color. So this is a much more grown-up green than a blue and yellow would make. And notice I'm always painting along with the curve of the leaf. So the leaf's curving over this way, I'm painting over that way. So I'm not painting this way because then it doesn't look like a leaf. You want to always paint along with contour lines. Okay. And then I like to go in, this is like some weird random space in between two flowers. So I like to go in and kind of use a dark green just to give a little background back there in between those flowers. There's a couple spaces in here that are like that. And this is our last flower. Our last leaf, excuse me. So as this is drying, I hope you can kind of see how you can see the lines come back through. And if you want, just for coverage sake or to add some highlights, you can kind of come back in and give some areas like another little swipe. Usually the more layers you do, the richer the painting looks. So it doesn't take long for this to kind of soak in and dry. So as soon as it does, you can kind of go hit it with a second layer. And now I'm gonna rinse out my brush. I'm gonna choose, well, so I broke my own advice. I should have painted this very first. I jumped right into the leaves. I don't know how or why I was literally doing the exact opposite of what I said. So I'm gonna paint this a navy down here. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of do that right quick. So this is the color from the color mixing tutorial that is kind of equal parts blue and the brown, the umber. So if you watch that video, you'll remember that the paints that you guys have in your box are, so now I'm gonna switch, I used a flat brush just to get like more area coverage over here. Now I'm going to use my pointy brush again to get up in between and pull out. So this pointy brush is just like non-negotiable to use for this type of paint project, because you have to have it to get up in these spaces. All right, and then I'm going to smooth everything out. I forgot what I was saying before I started talking about this, but so I'm going to come in here and add just a little bit of white just for some texture. Okay, I'm going to rinse that back out. So now I've got my base and my leaves painted. I'm going to choose my flower color. I'm going to go, like I said, we're going to keep this more neutral. So I'm rinsing out my flat brush again and getting the water off. And then let's do some white and maybe turn them into cream flowers. I don't know, do some white and some cream colors. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a base coat of white. And I'm going to go ahead and just do the center too, because why not? It'll make everything that's on top brighter, whatever we decide to do in the center there. Okay. It's never a bad idea to paint white first. Can't really hurt, really. So I can just go right over these lines. Because you're still going to be able to see them. I didn't blow dry because it looks like most everything is dry for me. But just to be safe, if you at home while you're painting want to blow dry before this step, because some of this green is a little wet, and if I touch to it, it is going to blend. But I'm just that type of painter that, like, I like that, and I just roll with it when it happens, and sometimes it inspires me to paint things a certain way. So I don't worry about it too much, because I see a little bit of blue in my brush kind of bleeding out. But honestly, I'm okay with it for right now. It's not getting to the point where it's too blue. I'm just painting everything very quickly. You can see how often I'm picking up my brush and how much paint I bring over, and then I just spend my time kind of smoothing the paint out. And again, it might look right now like I'm kind of painting kind of crazy and going over the lines hibbledy-hobbledy and willy-nilly, but that's because I know I'm going to be able to see the lines after this paint dries and that this isn't my final coat. So I'm still trying to go petal by petal for the most part. But if I don't, it's because I know this isn't my final coat. And that I'm gonna be able to see what I need to do once this color dries. You see how much of the brush strokes you're able to see right now? On the second go round, you're not gonna be able to tell that. Oop, that had a lot of paint in it. A lot of color. Excuse me. Yep, that green was wet right there. All right. And I totally forgot to take pictures of each step. So I don't know what I'm gonna do for you guys' technique sheet.